My name is Taylor Farrell, and this is my reflection on chapter 9 and 10. So, first, chapter 9 talks about the physical and cognitive changes that happen in middle to late childhood. One thing that stood out to me was the first thing they talked about in the chapter, I think, was like the brain, which I'm always fascinated about the brain. I love science. So, when they were talking about how the prefrontal cortex is starting to be formed and stuff, and this is linked to the child's attention, their reasoning, and even this goes into their cognitive control. So not only are the physical changes happening, but cognitive changes are happening too while these physical changes are happening. And in the chapter, I think it said that researchers are starting to think that the prefrontal cortex is most likely orchestrating other functions of development in the brain while it's developing. You also have changes in the thickness, it said in the book, from of the, I think, the cerebral cortex, and that happens in middle to late childhood. Chapter 9 talks about the accidents and injuries that happen in middle to late childhood, and how injuries are really one of the leading causes to death, most likely by motor vehicle. They said a recent study found that booster seats reduce the risk for serious injury by 45% for 4 to 8-year-old children. So if people start putting those booster seats in, we can have less child deaths. Also, they talk about obesity in this chapter, which is being overweight, but they classify this using the BMI, the body mass index, and I think if you're above the 95th percentile, no, 97th. If you're above the 97th percentile, that means you're obese. Or if you're right at it, that means you're obese. On to chapter 10, they talk about the socio-emotional development that happens in middle to late childhood. This happens self-understanding, which the kid starts to really think about this at this time, and then from 8 to 11 years old, kids are learning how to describe themselves with psychological characteristics oh, I'm funny, or I'm not even funny, they have generous, they have other, I don't even know really. I shouldn't use an example for that because I didn't really understand, but they do say that they have an increasing, psychological thing where they can say their characteristics and traits better than they could when they were their younger selves, and give a better self-description of themselves at this time. They talk about self-esteem and self-concept. The book says that self-esteem refers to global evaluations of the self. It's also called self-worth and self-image. I think this is a really important thing because not only do you work on this in middle to late childhood, but people are working on it in adulthood. So that's a big thing that is happening. And also you have self-concept, which refers to, it says, to domain-specific evaluations of the self. And that's what I got from chapter 9 and 10.